MJF, though, he has a long night. He stands tall at the end. Here's one thing that I love. MJF goes from filming Happy Gilmore 2, the release of it. He's got the contract now. Now he's involved basically in 3 storylines at once. And I was tickled by this. I love me some Maxwell Jacob Friedman. There is nothing in the world slimier than trying to convince Hangman he's the one afraid so that he can hang on to the contract in case he loses and wrestle him for the title first. It's one of my favorite, most clever storytelling tropes we saw all of last night. Max was on it with that. That was vintage MJF. That was Roddy Piper-esque. Just so far inside your head, he's going to pick at you because Hangman isn't the guy to turn down a fight. So now he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Why would I have to use my contract? Wouldn't you just want to fight me anyway? So I can hang on to it, guaranteed rematch, even if you get me the first time. I dug that psychologically. It was brilliant. Shad, I'm gonna start with you, and then Anthony, I'm gonna give it to you, and we'll take it home today. But man, weird night, but what a night for MJF.
Yeah, man, I like everything tied to what's going on with his booking right now because you kind of have him in different pockets. I like the fact that there's this big, decisiveness between how the Hurt Business feels about him or Hurt Syndicate feels about him trying to win them over, but Shelton obviously doesn't want any part of him. Bobby doesn't want any part of him. He wants to kind of have them in his back pocket because he knows that they're more or a viable benefit than them being against him. So you have that. The stuff with Mark Briscoe, I personally like it. I feel like there's a sense of, real bad blood between them. How, they've kind of, played underwater with a lot of real life stuff with Mark, but also just Max being that slime ball. And you want to really root for Mark. And then him having the contract going against Hangman, that being a big time match, a big time rivalry. So this is kind of like a lot of what we were complaining about. One of the best wrestlers on their roster not being utilized in premium ways. We kind of are covering base on that. And I think it shows a lot to him. I mean, the dude is a busy guy. He's booked and busy as it could be. He's doing press stuff for Happy Gilmore too. But he's also active as hell in AEW on TV. And I feel like that is the beauty of a star like MJF. He's really going to give you his best effort. He's going to make the best of what position you put him in. So to that, I mean, I enjoy it all. I think the ending with him, kind of playing the trickery after Mark got the win and standing on top and then Hangman coming out, it really gets you excited for what's in the future. And that's the one thing I do like about both winners of the Casino Battle Royals because they're teasing the rivalry so well, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And I like that factor of it because you could think a match is going to come. You could think a match is going to come. Then it doesn't come. And then it will come when we don't see it. I think that's the beauty of it.
Okay, one of my favorite things about this too, and you mentioned the Mark Briscoe stuff. I love, because Mark Briscoe isn't a guy traditionally that you would think needs to be elevated. We know his legendary status as a tag team wrestler. He went full Eminem on MJF in a promo recently. Basically went full 8 Mile. Like, I know you're going to call me a redneck. I know you're going to make fun of my brother's passing. I know you're going to do that. This is the most serious singles rivalry Mark Briscoe's had since the passing of Jay. Yep. And MJF is the perfect foe for it. And he's brought a side out of Mark Briscoe that we haven't seen since he was a tag team wrestler. And I think that part of it is something that we've kind of overlooked and is amazing and is deserved. We're seeing a little less redneck kung fu. I'm not saying I don't like redneck kung fu at all. I'm just saying we're seeing a little less of that and a little more seriousness from Mark Briscoe.
I like that too.
And I think that's really, really been a huge positive of him and MJF's interactions. I'm not trying to give MJF full credit. It takes 2 to tango. But for Mark Briscoe, I think this is awesome. As far as the Hurt Business stuff, I didn't need a huge payoff. I think we might get some form of it, though. And this is an interesting comment. I think Wardlow is returning to reform the Pinnacle with FTR, maybe, or Sheldon and Bobby versus MJF and Wardlow needs to happen as well. I'm cool with either of those. Of course, Also, he does have that silly little contract at any moment. Anthony, I got to get your thoughts on all of this. The Briscoe stuff, the tag potential here between him and the Hurt Business, as well as down the road, that pesky contract he's going to cash in eventually for a world title opportunity.
Yeah. MJF is a disciple of Roddy Piper. He knows how to invoke the audience to hate him. Piper used to say the success of WrestleMania 1, was it really because of, who was in the match, or was it because more people wanted to see him get his butt kicked? And I feel like MJF is absolutely a disciple of that. I said previously, I was not really a big fan of him kissing the Hurt Syndicate's butt to try to get in the group. And obviously it fell apart quicker than I think most people anticipated. Now, if you could make the argument of going, okay, you wanted the Hurt Syndicate to have his back so that he had his version of almost like the APA to protect him as a champion. You can kind of make that argument. I don't know how well that makes MVP look, that Shelton's like, we all knew these were fake watches. We just did this for MVP. Like, MVP not know there was a fake watch? But I thought that segment was interesting. The only negative that I really have to say is the Hangman MJF segment. I loved where, MJF is trying to weasel his way to get a title shot without actually cashing in his coupon to get one. Yeah. I would not have had that segment when they did, because Hangman's like, oh no, Mark Briscoe's ahead of you. Mark Briscoe hadn't wrestled Ricochet yet. I kind of would have aired that. Like, I would have tried to figure out a way to air that, after, or mention both of them, that they're ahead of you and they're wrestling tonight. Like something like that, because you said it and then the match happened. You're like, well, Mark Briscoe's going to win this. They wouldn't be crazy enough to give it to Ricochet. They just said he's at MJF. I love the seriousness with Mark. That's a side of him that we've never really truly seen. We saw it out of his brother, Jay. So it is nice to see that Mark's getting that push, if you want to call it that. And the Briscoes behind the scenes are two of the most beloved people. And legitimately, I'm sure Max wants to elevate Mark as much as possible. So he's going to make it to the point where it's like, no, they want to see you kick my butt. Like they're really going to sell it that way. Max being a thorn in Hangman's side is the smart move. I absolutely think that's the smart move. He's a right opponent to face him. They obviously have history in AEW. I think that could be interesting. And at some point, he's going to cash in and steal that title off of Hangman.
Yeah, I'm so with you 100%. And I agree that maybe deep down in the alleged heart that Maxwell Jacob Friedman has, he does want to see Mark elevated. the heart that he does allegedly possess. But I love the idea also of Max being able to bring that out of him. Just because he's Max has this ability that I think is unique. And you mentioned Piper, we both have, right? At this point, he for a heel like that, he can be whiny, slimy, and a bully, but he's never going to do anything corny enough that like he's going to get called a weasel, or like the chants at him that are like so embarrassing. It makes it not believable. You're just like, this guy is so slimy. He's gonna figure out a way to sneak his way into everything, to cheat his way to everything. He's gonna break the rules and no one's gonna catch him for it. When is somebody gonna get him? And he keeps being able to repeat that process. You mentioned the Hurt Business part of it, right? And I was in agreement out of the gates. I was like, what are we doing with this? But over that short period of time, he was able to get us back to this spot where you're like, this is literally the most untrustworthy, worst guy in the world. Mm-hmm. And he can reiterate that point as well as any heel I've ever seen. And I'm not just trying to continue to compliment MJF, but it is interesting to me. Not a lot of people can be a part of essentially 3 separate storylines in one night and at least be entertaining in all of them. Now, one point before we go home that I really, really love that you said, the order on that. Either say both names or put it after the match. Mm-hmm. It was so telegraphed. It was like, so Mark wins.